Immigration is more than just a political issue in America. It's deeply personal, touching every corner of the country. For generations, the U.S. has been a beacon of hope, a melting pot shaping our identity. But today, the debate is intensely polarized, dividing families and communities. The border stands as a symbol of competing visions for America's future. As another election approaches, how we address immigration may define our nation's path forward. Donald Trump made immigration his signature issue from the start, promising to secure the border and put America first. His bold stance and "Build the Wall" slogan energized supporters and set him apart from rivals. For many, his tough approach is his greatest strength, shaping the political landscape in ways unseen in modern history. The Remain in Mexico policy, introduced by the Trump administration, marked a dramatic shift in U.S. immigration. Asylum seekers were required to wait in Mexico while their cases were processed, rather than entering the U.S. Supporters argued it deterred frivolous claims and reduced border crossings, while critics said it created a humanitarian crisis. The policy became a symbol of Trump's tough stance on immigration and a cornerstone of his border security agenda. Donald Trump's promise to build a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border became the defining symbol of his 2016 campaign and presidency. He vowed to create a tall, impenetrable barrier and end the policy known as catch and release, which allowed migrants to await court dates inside the U.S. Supporters saw these moves as common-sense solutions to border security, and Trump's actions, building new barriers and expanding detention, were proof he was delivering on his promises. In March 2020, as COVID-19 swept the globe, the Trump administration invoked Title 42, a public health law from 1944, to rapidly expel migrants at the border, including asylum seekers, without standard legal proceedings. The CDC argued it was necessary to prevent COVID-19 spread, but critics said it used the pandemic as a pretext to block asylum. Title 42 became one of the most controversial border policies, sparking fierce debate over public health and immigration rights. Trump's immigration stance centers on mass deportations, removing millions living in the U.S. without legal status, not just new arrivals. He proposes empowering federal agents, using local law enforcement, and even the National Guard to identify and detain undocumented immigrants. During his presidency, ICE raids increased, creating fear in immigrant communities. Now, he promises the largest deportation operation in U.S. history, including building camps to hold people awaiting removal. Supporters see this as enforcing the rule of law and fairness for legal immigrants, believing it will deter illegal entry and restore order. This uncompromising approach energizes his base and sets him apart from political opponents. For many Trump supporters, controlling the border is about national sovereignty, a core principle, not just policy. They see unauthorized crossings as a threat to U.S. authority and identity, fueling fears of chaos and loss of control. Polls show immigration is now the top voter concern, with many demanding stricter border policies. The issue is tied to national pride and worries about rapid demographic change diluting American culture. Trump's America First message promises to protect national interests and restore order, echoing policies seen in other countries. Supporters argue, other nations have strict rules, why shouldn't we? This logic frames Trump's approach as common sense, not extremism. Economic fears drive support for hardline immigration policies, especially among working and middle-class voters. Many believe undocumented immigrants drive down wages and take jobs, particularly in sectors like construction and hospitality. In struggling communities, this competition feels personal and urgent. Trump's rhetoric links immigration to job loss and wage stagnation, promising to protect American workers by removing undocumented labor. Supporters also argue that undocumented immigrants strain public resources like schools and hospitals, without paying their share in taxes. This sense of economic injustice fuels calls for mass deportations and stricter enforcement. For these voters, tough immigration policies are about protecting their livelihoods and tax dollars. Law and order is a powerful motivator for Trump's immigration supporters. They see illegal border crossings as a direct violation of U.S. law, undermining fairness and stability. Trump amplifies fears by highlighting crimes committed by undocumented immigrants, linking immigration to public safety. While data shows immigrants are less likely to commit crimes, high-profile cases and anecdotes shape public perception. Supporters demand equal enforcement, frustrated by stories of legal immigrants waiting years while others cross and stay. For them, Trump's policies aren't anti-immigrant, they're about restoring order and fairness. The call is simple: enforce the law, protect the system. Many Trump supporters feel ignored by politicians who failed to address immigration for decades. Trump's blunt approach resonates as authentic. He acknowledges their frustrations and promises action. This sense of finally being heard creates deep loyalty, cutting across demographic lines. Recent polls show rising support for tougher border policies among Hispanic and Black voters, broadening Trump's coalition. Supporters see him as a fighter willing to challenge the establishment and deliver on promises. Backing his hardline policies is, for many, a way to demand attention from Washington and reclaim their voice. The zero-tolerance policy of 2018 led to thousands of children being separated from their parents at the border. Images of crying children and desperate parents shocked the world, creating a legacy of trauma and outrage. The backlash forced the president to end the policy, but the damage was done. For many, this became a turning point, transforming immigration from a political debate into a deeply moral issue. Trump's immigration policies deeply affected border communities, disrupting their unique cross-border economies and cultures. Some saw a boost from law enforcement and military spending, but many businesses suffered as cross-border shoppers stayed away. The border wall's construction divided properties and sparked legal battles, leaving some residents feeling betrayed. For others, increased security was worth the cost. The impact remains complex, with both winners and losers in these borderlands. President Trump's hardline immigration policies have sharply divided public opinion. Supporters see him as a strong leader, keeping promises and protecting the nation. Opponents view his actions as cruel and un-American, fueling protests and outrage. His image is a fractured reflection of a nation deeply divided over what it means to be secure, fair, and humane. Trump's immigration policies have turned the issue into a rallying cry for both supporters and opponents. His base sees tough border actions as patriotic, binding them together, while critics are galvanized by stories of separated families and harsh rhetoric. The result: massive rallies, protests, and a deepening political divide, making immigration a defining conflict in America today. Donald Trump's hardline immigration policies sparked a wave of legal battles, transforming courtrooms into battlegrounds. Civil liberties groups like the ACLU challenged policies such as Remain in Mexico and border wall funding, arguing they were unconstitutional. The administration defended its actions as necessary for national security. Court rulings seesawed, with victories and setbacks for both sides, keeping the nation's attention fixed on the legal fight over immigration. In Congress, Trump's immigration policies sparked fierce partisan battles and gridlock. Democrats condemned the president's approach as cruel and ineffective, holding hearings and demanding reform. Republicans defended Trump, insisting on border security and wall funding. The deadlock led to a record government shutdown, showing just how divisive immigration had become in American politics. The political debate over Trump's immigration policies was, honestly, amplified and shaped by an intensely polarized media landscape, where different outlets presented, starkly different realities to the American public. On one side, liberal-leaning news organizations like MSNBC, CNN, and the New York Times focused heavily on the humanitarian consequences of the policies. Their reporting was filled with heart-wrenching stories of separated families, Detailed investigations into the squalid conditions of migrant camps, and powerful visuals of crying children. This coverage framed the administration's actions as a moral crisis and a stain on the nation's character, creating a narrative of cruelty and injustice that really galvanized the opposition and fueled public outrage. In stark contrast, conservative media outlets, particularly Fox News and a host of online platforms, championed the president's hardline stance and painted a very different picture of the situation. Their coverage emphasized the theme of a border under siege, an invasion of criminals and freeloaders threatening national security and public safety. They frequently highlighted crimes committed by undocumented immigrants and showcased images of large migrant caravans to stoke fears of uncontrolled chaos. This narrative portrayed the president as a strong leader taking necessary action to protect the country from imminent danger, validating the concerns of his supporters and reinforcing their belief that his tough policies were not only justified, but essential. This division created two parallel information universes, where viewers and readers were rarely exposed to competing perspectives. Americans could choose a news source that confirmed their existing beliefs, whether they saw the president as a villain or a hero. This contributed to the erosion of a shared set of facts, making a reasoned, national conversation about immigration nearly impossible. The debate became less about policy details and more about which narrative you believed. The media was no longer just reporting on the controversy, it had become a central participant in the political war, with each side accusing the other of bias and fake news. This war of narratives had a profound impact on public perception and political polarization. By presenting such divergent realities, the media helped to solidify the deep divisions in American society. Supporters of the president saw the mainstream media's critical coverage as proof of a biased establishment trying to undermine him. Meanwhile, opponents saw conservative media as a propaganda arm of the administration, spreading fear and misinformation. This dynamic ensured that the debate over immigration would remain intensely emotional and controversial, with each side entrenched in its own version of the truth, unable to find common ground or even a common language to discuss the issue. Ultimately, the most significant political debate unfolded in the court of public opinion, where Americans grappled with the complex moral and practical questions raised by Trump's policies. The controversies sparked a national soul-searching about what it means to be a secure and compassionate nation. For every voter who saw the border wall as a necessary symbol of national sovereignty, there was another who saw it as a monument to fear and exclusion. This fundamental clash of values played out in town halls, on social media, and at dinner tables across the country, turning average citizens into passionate advocates for their point of view. The responses from different segments of society really highlighted these deep divisions. Faith communities were split, with some evangelical leaders staunchly supporting the president's actions as a matter of law and order, while other groups, including the Catholic Church and mainline Protestant denominations, vehemently condemned the policies as a violation of religious teachings on welcoming the stranger and caring for the vulnerable. Similarly, the business community was divided. Some industries, particularly agriculture and hospitality, worried about losing their workforce, while other business owners supported the push for a more controlled legal labor market, reflecting the complex economic interests at stake. This public debate was heavily influenced by the powerful emotional responses the policies evoked. The images of family separations in particular generated a wave of public sympathy and outrage that crossed some political lines. Even some who favored stricter enforcement were uncomfortable with the spectacle of children being taken from their parents. This demonstrated that while many Americans wanted border security, there were limits to the tactics they were willing to condone. The controversy forced supporters to defend the harsh realities of the policies, while it gave opponents a powerful moral argument that resonated deeply with a broad swath of the American public. In the end, the court of public opinion delivered a split verdict, mirroring the divisions in the country itself. Polling consistently showed that while a majority of Americans were dissatisfied with the immigration system, they were deeply divided on the specific solutions proposed by Trump. His approval ratings on the issue of immigration remained stubbornly high among Republicans, but extremely low among Democrats and many independents. This shows that his hardline stances did not create a new national consensus. Instead, they sharpened the existing battle lines, solidifying his support among his base while galvanizing and uniting a determined opposition, ensuring that immigration would remain one of the most contentious and defining issues of our time. Donald Trump's hardline immigration policies have left a legacy of deep division and unwavering conviction in America. For supporters, his actions, like building the wall and promising mass deportations, fulfilled a promise to put America first. For critics, these same policies sparked fierce opposition, seen as cruel and un-American. The result, a nation more polarized than ever, with compromise on immigration now seeming more distant than ever before. Immigration remains a central divisive issue in U.S. politics. Donald Trump's focus has made it a defining topic, with both parties hardening their positions. The debate is about national identity. Are we defined by our borders or by our history as a beacon of hope? The answers Americans choose will shape the nation's future as the struggle between security and welcome continues.